Leaders weather the storm. Here we are in the midst of tropical storm Emily. It just blew up in the water in the Gulf Bay overnight, and so, boom, we went from depression to tropical storm. It's going to take 12 hours to get across the peninsula of Florida. A lot of people were prepping for heavy rain, but they weren't expecting this depression, this storm to pop up and really form, and now inundating the coast, the central coast, with rain, heavy rain, heavy rain. Outside, rain is coming down. We're in central Florida, but we're away from that, but we're still going to feel the impacts of that over the next 12 hours or more. What happens? Leaders have things happen. Everybody has things that happen. We have lives that suddenly things appear. Hi, Mark. Welcome. Glad you could join. We have things in our life that appear out of nowhere, or at least it seems to us because we're not really focused on it, that challenge us, that really step up and say, hey, I need your attention right this moment. I know as a leader in the banking organization where I was and called upon to be part of the emergency preparedness, we had problems, challenges that would appear, and we would have to respond. Back a while ago was, some big hacking attempts by people to get credit card numbers and to, get your loan information and such. They're still going on, but at that moment in time that I was in that position, I was having to deal with, what do we do? What's our process? What are the things that we need to do? So leaders know their process. Leaders know in advance and are prepared for the storm. They have the sandbags ready. They have, the numbers of everyone they need to call. They have, through the great technology we have today, we can get everybody on a phone call, or if need be, if the phones don't work, to get into the office or some location and discuss what the steps are that we're going to do, walk through them. What do we know? What do we yet need to know? So leaders are flexible in approach to problem solving. Yes, Mark. Thank you. Yes. There's this immediate change based on new information. So leaders might say, okay, this is our problem. This is the steps that we have. We're going to walk through this. But if there's something that we don't know at this moment that will come forward, we're going to be prepared to be flexible. We're going to be open to change. One of the things that I was looking back at my notes from a seminar, a life-changing seminar that I went to almost 3 years ago. And it said the good and great would never have happened if the bad didn't happen. If the bad didn't happen. So if the bad didn't happen, if we don't have the storms, we can't expect to have the lessons learned, to have that change, that perspective of, hey, it was bad, it was storming, it was flooding as it is you might be able to see it in the lot next to us, that there's water standing now. Rain's been coming down since about, one or so, heavy rain. And, if we aren't prepared, then what are we going to do? And sometimes we get into a situation in our lives, we don't prepare. We don't say, if this happens, this is what I'm going to do. And sometimes you just don't know, right? So you can't necessarily prepare for every contingency. If you wake up one day, go to the doctor, and they suddenly say, well, you have, this disease or this problem, you need to go through immediate surgery to have your heart repaired. You're not prepared for that. But you do have some training. You're prepared for getting ready, getting your body ready at all times, to have it ready to be more healthy as best it can, to respond quickly. People who don't exercise and then go through a major surgery take longer to recover because their body is not ready to respond to this change. So the same way with, what's going on with us. We're not open. We're not seeking novel, effective solutions. Yeah, absolutely, Mark. We're just going through a process, and maybe our process answers the problem coming up. Maybe it doesn't, and then we're reacting instead of responding. So if we can't handle the bad, we're not going to be refreshed when we've worked and challenged through, so those days when I was, as I mentioned, going through that emergency preparedness team and responding to the crisis that might have happened, if we weren't ready for it, we wouldn't be able to handle it, for one thing. But sometimes it takes a lot out of us, like a surgery that you're faced. It takes a lot out of you. And then you have to recover. You have to rebuild your strength. You have to, in the case of the office, you need to, make sure there aren't ancillary impacts, that you've covered the information to the public, to the people impacted. You don't hide it, for 6 months, 12 months. How many of those that we've seen in the news where people's accounts have been hacked and they sit on the information for 6 to 12 months? Now, you can't release everything that you know, or you're trying to keep information contained so that you can find who was the culprit, right? But you got to tell people. You got to be transparent. You got to let them know that you are working on it, that you're on top of it. You can't just react to it and say, "Oh, sorry." There was a computer or a online search firm, starts with a Y, but they didn't release the information, and then lo and behold, they're having to deal with it in arrears, and it gets uglier, gets nastier. Same way in our lives. If we don't handle something up front, somewhere down the line, we are going to have to deal with it. Our mind has two options. One, it says, yes, this was a happy experience. Or two, no, it needs work. I need a resolution on it, because the mind needs resolution. It needs to be able to file it away and say, good experience or resolved experience. And if it's left in this quandary of saying, I don't have it resolved, the mind starts building up attention getters. And it starts playing through your body. In the same way in our workplace, in our family lives, if we don't deal with something early, if something went astray and we don't open up and discuss it, it festers, it builds up, and suddenly it gets worse and then worse. And then suddenly you say, whoa, where did this all come from? And then, well, if you had handled it way back, let's think of it in the terms of, just weight loss. It's just a really simple example. If you keep eating ice cream and chips and hot dogs and, all the things that we now know are not really good for us, and probably were never good for us, recipes change and components change over time. And we just keep eating and pushing that through our bodies, what happens? Well, we may feel, kind of not feeling good, but then it goes away. And then next time it's a little stronger. And then next time, what? My cholesterol's through the roof. I'm having a heart attack, or, having chest pains. I'm, susceptible to something larger. It festers in different ways because our mind has to deal with it, with our body, to process it. In the same way that, hi, Jen. Hi, Lisa. Welcome. As we're talking about leaders weathering the storm, there's a couple components that we can walk through that storm. One, be prepared. So look at what is that is right now happening in your life. And sometimes there's so many things overwhelming you. So look at one. Work on one thing at a time. Leaders, when they're weathering the storm, will work on one thing. There may be flooding, there may be trees down, there may be power lines down, there may be a variety of things, crashes, all this is going on. People are not in the right places. So you've got to narrow it down and work on one thing at a time and be able to then process through the storm. When the storm is completed and you've addressed all the problems, boom, you come out on the other side. The sun is shining. I've got a picture on my computer. Can't see it, but it's being at the shoreline and the sun setting, and very tranquil and very peaceful. Well, that's what happens in our lives. If we deal with the storm, and we have to deal with the storm, we as people have to deal with the storm. If we don't deal with the storm in our lives, in our struggle, in our challenges, in the things that weigh us down, we don't reach the goals that we want. You can tell your mind, I really like ice cream. So you sit on the couch, you eat ice cream, and then the next morning you're feeling really bad because you overindulged in the ice cream. And then your mind, your intellectual component of your mind says, hey, I got an idea how to address that. Let's go and work out on the P90X, and boom, and we work out really hard, and then suddenly we're, realizing that we overdid it, and now we're feeling, really sick. And then your mind the next day is saying, oh, I don't feel so well. I'm feeling struggling. I'm not doing well. And you're another component of your body is telling you, you did something to get yourself out of alignment. You did something to overreact. And then you're not in alignment and you're causing yourself greater harm. So what is the thing that we need to do? We need to be prepared. We need to focus on one thing at a time. We need to be open to other people's information or perspectives. Figure out together what's the best way to weather the storm. So leaders don't go through the storm alone. They know that they need others to help them get through it. One man does not paddle a boat into the winds of 90 miles an hour. It needs a crew. If you watched the fishermen stories out in the Alaska, and the winter storms are coming through, and they're trying to pick up their pots for the lobster or the crab, mostly the crab, and they're trying to get through that, but also weather through the storm, and they've got all hands on deck to tie things down, to really keep the engines running, to weather the waves and be able to say, hey, there's a wave coming out, everybody get to the safe areas in the boat, and then come back and keep doing what they need to do. So how are you weathering the storm? What are you doing to watch ahead so you can see that huge wave coming at you, that next thing that's going to be part of the challenge that you need to get through? Are you working with people with you? Or are you working against people? Are you the sole sailor into the storm and you're going to fail? If you learn that you need people, you need to prepare, you need to have all the provisions that you need to focus on, what is it that you've got to change in your life? What is the pivot that you have to make along the path? So being open to that feedback and being open to transparency to let others know that, yes, we're going through a challenge. Yes, you are going through a challenge. Yes, you need help from others. You need support. You need strength. You need people to prop you up. Much like Moses when he was, overwhelmed, he needed people to hold his arms up. And as long as he did, then a difference was made. When we just look at yourself, when you have fallen, when you have a surgery, or you're feeling sick, just make it more basic. If you're feeling really sick, food or, caught something from somebody else, and it takes all the energy out of you, sometimes you need a helping hand to get you out of the bed and to a different location or whatever, or to prop up your head, or to wipe your brow, or put a cold compress on. So what are we doing? What is it focused on? What is it that we're going to weather the storm? So as we live through today's tropical storm Emily, down here in Florida, we're gonna, have to deal with it. But out of that comes the good, and comes the better, comes the fresh wind. So last night, as we were dealing with laundry and we were putting the stuff into the car near midnight, it was foggy. It was really stuffy. You could just feel the heat and the humidity just sit on you. It just felt like you were weighed down. Now we're dealing with the rain coming down, but there will be sun, and there will be a fresh breeze, and there'll be a fresh wind. So what is it that in your life that you're going through a storm that you know that at some point the wind is going to come through your life and make it feel better? You'll experience the best. You'll experience the greater goodness of having gone through the storm and being better for it. Learn the lessons of the storm. Learn and improve the next time you have a challenge. Let's see, Lisa says, getting through the storms is easier when you find happiness triggers such as anticipation, what you're forward to, gratitude, acknowledgement of accomplishment. So yes, absolutely. Celebrate the points that you've gone through, the point, as you go through a storm. Sometimes the storms are a lot more than one day. You know this. Sometimes there's a lot of points where you just feel this thing's going to drag on forever. Sometimes we have a major illness and it's going to take months, if not years, to go through. So keep holding on to travel through your storm. Yeah, that's great, Mark. Thank you. Good can come out of storm. Get that fresh wind. Anticipate the fresh wind. It will be there for you. In your darkest moment, it could be your brightest moment. It could be the sun, shining down on you. Here in Florida, you're hot. It's sweaty because of high humidity. But you find an umbrella, and you put the umbrella up. People walking down the street are putting them, have umbrellas up so that they can feel cooler. And suddenly, when you feel cooler, you recognize that you're in the moment, and you feel that breeze coming through, and it refreshes you for the walk ahead. So what in your life are you having to walk through the storm? What are you prepared to do? Are you going to be transparent? Are you going to seek support? Are you going to bring others alongside you to help you through that point in your life? Or are you going to try to do it alone and be closed to it and not take advantage of rectifying something in your life that needs a response? Don't react to it. Do a measured response. Don't overdo, the P90X because you had Ben & Jerry's ice cream the night before and you're feeling lousy today because you've gone off your diet and you were trying to lose weight, and boom, now, you got extra weight to try to burn off, extra sugar and all that that's sitting in you, and you're feeling miserable. Don't over-respond to something. Be consistent. Be forward-gazing. Watch ahead so that you can avoid the ice cream aisle the next time you're going through Walmart or through your favorite grocery store. Say, no, I don't need the ice cream. Or take it in measured response. Buy the little small, cup. The 1 ounce or 2 ounce cup. Buy that instead of the big half-gallon bucket, pail, whatever. Have fun. But remember, you need to weather the storm. It's important in your life. There are things that are going to come out of it where you're going to then feel the fresh wind come across you and refresh you for the next step in your journey. My name is Dutkiewicz, and I'm help people, work with people individually and within their businesses to help them find that fresh wind, to help them propel and evolve and move forward to a greater plane If we are not climbing, then we are sliding. Climb. It's a struggle, but you will find yourself better for it through the storm. You will walk, and you will walk to a greater light, to a greater height, to look beyond the storm. Keep an eye up, but keep an eye in this moment. Have a good day. Stay dry. Remember your boots if you're here in Florida. Talk soon. Bye.